kind of made out of a way to use the pineapple rinds. Using the pineapple rind is very key and important. I also recommend using organic rind since you are using the rind. So you want an organic pineapple for this. But basically what you do is you just take sugar, specifically Mexican cane sugar that has been dried and evaporated. So this stuff, this is called piloncillo. And then just all you have to do is just microwave it a little bit and it becomes really soft. And you just chop it up with a knife. And you put it in here. So this has 2 cones of piloncillo plus 2 pineapples and then just some water. And then if you want additional flavor, you can add cloves, which I happen to have. And then you add cinnamon, and then that's it. And then you let it, you take the entire pineapple, or if you want, you can just use the skins and then eat the pineapple inside. And then what I like to do is I use the muddler for my cocktail making kit, and then I'll mash it in so that it becomes like kind of like a pineapple mash, as you see here. And then periodically you want to stir it so it doesn't because it is a little prone to mold if you don't take care of it. And as you can see, it's getting really fluffy for me because this has been fermenting this is now day 2. And 2 days is kind of roughly 2 to 3 days in that range is about how long you want to brew it for. And it's just this wonderful pineapple fizz. And so how it's fermenting is on the surface of the pineapple. You want to lightly rinse it. You want to rinse it too good that you don't have any of the bacteria. But there's wild yeast and bacteria that lives on the fruit of the pineapple, and that in itself will ferment the sugars that you add into your drink. It's what flavors the tepache. And so it's a very simple thing, and all it takes is 2 days of brewing. If you go anything longer than that, then it'll become vinegar, which is also useful, just not tepache. And then you can put it in the bottle and then do a second fermentation. I would recommend no more than a day in the bottle, otherwise you might risk explosion. And then throw that into your fridge, and it'll get a nice carbonation. And yeah, it's great. So I'm also going camping, so I'm going to be bringing this along to share with people. This one I made the day before. This one I waited a little too long, so I think the yeast on the surface kind of died, so it wasn't fermenting. And so I added some regular just baking yeast to see what would happen, because I've never done that before. And it's kind of been lackluster. It hasn't been as tasty. And so it tastes a little more like beer, but not in a good way. So I was thinking about throwing it out, but then I figured I'd try adding an actual beer to it to see what happens. So I bought a tall boy of Modelo Negra. And so I'm going to add that in here and see if that is palatable. And then from there, I'm going to see if that's worth testing out. Also, because this is so fluffy right now and it's fermented a lot more, I'm actually going to test it. I might actually bottle this today while we're waiting. So we're going to see in a second. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It looks bigger than it actually is. This countertop space is maybe 3 feet. It's actually very small, but thank you. Yeah, this is where you see here is kind of the countertop space I got. And then, I mean, it's open, but then it's just the living room over there. So, but thank you. I like my kitchen too. Oh, the cookie dough is not brewing. So this is the tepache part of the, this is the tepache, or pakpi, sorry. I keep calling you pecan for some reason. Sorry about that. Pakpi. So the cookie dough is just resting and getting a little more solid so that I can actually handle it. So that's just sitting in the fridge. And so now what I'm doing is I'm doing tepache, which is the second thing I need to do. And so I'm just doing it on stream while we're waiting for the cookie dough to rest. And so I'm making pineapple brew that's called tepache. for fun and to share. So I'm going to test this pineapple here, or this other one, the one that's doing well. I tested it about 5 hours ago, 8 hours ago, and it wasn't this crazy foamy. So it makes me wonder if this isn't ready. So I'm gonna do a little test. So you do want to regularly skim the foam off the top. Because if mold's gonna grow, it'll grow there. So you gotta kind of skim it off the top. And I also use that as an opportunity to test the state of the tepache. And so you want to at least stir it a couple times a day, maybe 3 times a day, just to make sure that it doesn't go bad. So here we go. Let's test it out. I'm going to bottle that. This is actually perfect. So I just needed that extra 8 hours to really get that funk. Okay, so this one, not as big of a fan of. I'm going to leave this to the side. I'm going to do the one that I know is perfect and get that one out of the way. And then we'll see if we can salvage it by adding some cerveza to that tepache. But this one might end up down the drain / into the compost. That other one. But this is definitely where I want it to be. Okay. So, oh yay. That makes me really happy. Okay. So, how do we do this? I've got this. Let's figure out the best way. So, to really get all the juice out, I also have to use the muddler again and really squeeze out the juice on the pineapple chunks that are fermenting. And then, I don't think I have a pitcher. That would have been nice. Oh well. I have this one. So let me throw this into the sink. We'll use this big bowl. Okay. I might, just for the sake of adding in some fill.
Potatoes.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
I got bored
Thanks
one day,
for the hydration.
and I put everything on a bagel. Everything. All my hopes and dreams, my old report cards, every brief
So
dive,
that
every
up
last
there,
personal ad
I
on
made this
Craigslist.
about a year or 2 years ago.
Sesame, poppy seed, salt.
So for those who are curious, that line's from Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of my favorite movies ever. And it's about one of the characters, like the villain, kind of makes like an everything bagel that has everything, and it becomes this giant black hole. It's like an absurd science fiction fantasy movie. And so, anyways, when the Oscars were going on that year and it was up for Best Picture, I was rooting for it, so I decided to make a giant everything bagel. And so I just made a bagel recipe for it. At least I think it was about 4 bagels, and then I put it in the biggest pot I had, and I made a bagel about this big, and then I just sprinkled it with everything seasoning, and then I made like a bagel and lox. And then the eyes that you saw for googly eyes is just a little cream cheese and a little caper on top. So, and then for those who have seen the movie, you'll understand why I put googly eyes on that bagel. Okay, so I think for now, what we'll do is we're going to put this brew. Okay, so I think this is done. We're gonna put this brew into. I wonder if there's a way to filter this, or should I filter it? I think I have a coffee filter somewhere. I do. Okay. So we use a coffee filter. Maybe I double wall it so it doesn't die. So it's 2. And then maybe I use a tea. Well, actually, I don't even know if I need the coffee filter. I could probably just use the strainer. I guess I really want to get the bits out. Right. We grab the strainer. Okay. So one trick about coffee filters, and this is something I learned from coffee brewing, is oh yeah, it is a Big Bang Theory shirt. Sorry. That's crazy. Bagel has drip. A classic cream cheese bagel. Yeah, I love. It is a Big Bang Theory shirt. I don't know if I'm necessarily the biggest fan of Big Bang Theory. I got the shirt for free. But yeah, Bazinga. And it's comfortable, and it just was the first thing I grabbed. Hey, Darlene, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, it's pineapple. It's pineapple. That's what's in this jar. Sorry, Mini Pop. I'm fermenting a pineapple drink, so that's actually mashed pineapple in a jar. So that's all it is. Oh, damn it, I got pineapple juice on the. So I'm making what's like it's called tepache, which is a pineapple beer. I'm actually done with the stove, so this can fuck right off. Goodbye. Yeah, it does look like yellow lentils. Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you kind of ferment it for, you know. Okay, so anyways, what you want to do is when you use a coffee filter, you actually want to run a little bit of hot water first, and that gets rid of the paper taste. You just dump that out. And then now we're just gonna pour this in, just like this. So this has been fermenting for, yeah, about 2.5 days now. But yeah, see, it used to be a pineapple. There's the pineapple skin right there. And you use the skin and all. You actually primarily want to use the skin because there's a lot of wild yeast on the skin. Yeah, it's yeah. I guess it's called pineapple beer. It's not really beer, but It's basically naturally fermented pineapple. But yeah, it's very 4th of July. Exactly. All right, I'm going to grab my muddler. And then I'm going to kind of mash out all the juices out of this pineapple to get everything out of it. And then, obviously, this pineapple mash will end up in the... I don't know if I need the coffee filter. This is the first time me trying to use the coffee filter. I might actually... Yeah, I think the coffee filter is making it more annoying. Okay, we're just going to get rid of the coffee filter. So I'm just going to use the sieve. And then... Actually, I'll break the sieve if I do that. So let me grab a bowl to mash the rest of this in. So I'm just squeezing out extra last bit of juice because there's a lot of flavor in the pineapple mash itself. And then we'll... Okay, and then this goes to compost. And we do it portions at a time. And then once I get through all of this, we'll toss it into a jar. But anyways, this thing is so stupid simple to make. Highly recommend making this if you guys are adventurous. It doesn't really taste like beer. I guess people use it as beer as a reference because it has the same alcohol content of like a Pilsner. It's like 2 to 4%. But it's kind of like a kombucha for reference. Here, let me move this up here. Or like a ginger beer, right? Like a ginger bug, which is actually brewed in a very similar way. So this muddler that I have in my hand is, your typical cocktail muddler that you usually use to mash fruit to, to get the juices out and make cocktails. So, so it's very useful for this exact application. Okay. And that's all she wrote for this batch. I think this will make at least 3 of these, I think. We'll see. There's the cinnamon stick. Oh, you see the flower on my keyboard? Yeah, this is my old laptop. I don't really care about it, which is why it's super close to cooking. Yeah, it's covered in flour because I basically cook. It's almost exclusively at this point used as what I use to read chat on stream. My nice laptop's way over there, safe from harm, and it's the thing that's running my stream. Oh, so the cinnamon stick is for just flavor. It's not necessarily fully traditional, um, but it's not fully traditional, but it's it is a potentially traditional, like, I guess what I should say, like the most authentic tepache is just piloncillo, which is this brown sugar right here. This is Mexican cane sugar, piloncillo, pineapples, and water. That's all you need. But if you are going to add a spice to it, cinnamon and cloves are like the 2 acceptable, like kind of traditional flourishes that you can add to it. Or at least if you want to keep it relatively authentic. But honestly, your world's your oyster if you want to make tepache. I know I've seen variants where people have added like cactus pears for flavoring, and then other people have added, like I know It's Alive with Brad. I think that's where I first discovered tepache back in the day when I used to watch Bon Appetit, before the whole thing went under and turned out to be this really systemically racist magazine that took advantage of their people, their editors of color. If you guys aren't familiar, just look it up. It's just this insanely racist organization. Anyhow, Brad used to have this segment that was called It's Alive with Brad, where he kind of explores fermentation. And his second episode, I believe, he did tepache. And I was really intrigued by it, so I looked it up. And his version, he uses like jalapeno peppers or some kind of pepper. And he actually ferments his at room temperature for a week, so it gets real boozy. Which I think is real risky because, well, first of all, the jar portion where you saw me brew in that big jar, you really only want to do more than 3 days, because then it very quickly will become pineapple vinegar, because the oxygen, the aerobic fermentation, not the anaerobic, but the aerobic fermentation, creates vinegar. And while vinegar is tasty, if you want to make it for like pineapple vinegar for cooking applications, it is fantastic. Isn't tepache. Just isn't as pleasant to drink, unless you like a really vinegary tepache. But at some point in time, it ceases to become tepache and it just becomes pineapple vinegar. And so it turns into vinegar very fast. And so you really only want to do this no more than 3 days. And so right here, I'm actually decanting it at 2.5 days. And of course, there's a lot of factors that, like, because it is like a very rudimentary brewing method, there's a lot of factors you have to consider. So, like, for example, the temperature of your ambient temperature, just how well there's yeast and bacteria growing on your pineapple when you grout it. There's a lot of different factors, so it could potentially take a little longer than 3 days, no more than 5, but generally 3 has been like a good number from what I've seen. And then at that point, you want to bottle it, and then depending on how fizzy you want it, you can do that for 1 to 2 days, or if you want it more alcoholic, you can let it go for longer. But again, it's one of those things where it might turn into vinegar or it might just get real boozy, depending on like what conditions you kept it in. I've never attempted the really boozy stuff. I've always stopped after 3 days and just 1 day of bottling. But I know It's Alive with Brad does it for a week in the bottle, so it becomes super boozy pineapple wine, essentially. Okay. So okay. Oh no! Guess it'll be a little pulpier than I would have liked, but that's okay. It's tepache. So I purposely used a plastic bowl for the muddling. And then this has a rubber tip on the end. So definitely don't want to use glass if you do this, for obvious reasons. But ceramics is probably fine. But I'm just trying to play it safe, so I'm using plastic for this part. Okay. That's the good stuff. Okay. Otherwise, I still need this strainer for one last push. So yeah, actually on this trip, I'm going to be bringing and sharing a couple homemade brews. I also have a thing of plum wine that I made last year that I kind of forgot about. That's just sitting over there. Okay. Okay. And that's the first of the tepache. This is the good tepache. And then we'll see about the other one. But now it's time to bottle this. Just making sure there's no breakage in here. Don't want these exploding on me. Hi, Mojo Jojo. What's up? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am making tepache. So I'm going to try to do this without spilling too much. wonder if there's a better way to do this. Oh, I know.